Sharma Gujjar, Assistant Professor at ICT Department of LJ Institute of Engineering and Technology. Welcome to the last lecture of Unit 4. Okay. In previous lecture, we have completed all the diagrams in our elements of model part. Okay, so in requirement modeling we have discussed about what is the need of that model, what is the analysis of model, then approaches of requirement modeling and various diagram like use case, activity diagram, data flow diagram, class diagram, sequence diagram, swim lane diagram, etc. So now in today's lecture we will cover the remaining topic of Unit 4, that is Feasibility Study and SRS. SRS stands for Software Requirement Specification. So let's start with the today's topic. So first topic is about a feasibility study. In this topic we will cover about a determinants practically. Okay, so what is feasibility, then things studied, what things are studied during the feasibility analysis, okay, and types of feasibility. So what is feasibility? So feasibility study is a part of an initial stage in every project. Feasibility study conducted in order to objectively uncover what are the strengths and weaknesses of your project. Even it is an analysis that takes all the project related factors into account. Okay, so what are the strengths and weaknesses and what are the factors that affect your particular project, that will measure in feasibility study. So feasibility study establishes the basic business requirements and constraints associated with the application to be built. Okay, so here what is going on? A user will come to you or a customer will come to you for any software product development. So he or she will give you a requirements for particular software. Okay, so if I am a user or a customer, I will give you some requirements of particular software. Okay, so based on that particular requirement, you as a project manager or as a part of a project team, you will analyze all the requirement thoroughly. Okay, so what you will analyze? You are analyzing that is it a justified project, is it a possible project. Okay, so I have done with my requirements, but all the requirements are feasible or not, that will measure during a feasibility study analysis. Okay, so feasibility study analysis determines whether the solution considered is practical and workable. Okay, so I have done with my requirement. Okay, so I need this feature in my software. Okay, but whether that all the requirements are feasible according to the costing, according to the profit, according to the market needs. Okay, so all the factors are take place during the feasibility study. Okay, and in feasibility study you are going to study things like what are the resource availability. Okay, I will give you my requirements, but based on my requirements you are analyzing what resources are required for building that particular software, but whether that resources are available or not. Then cost estimation for software development. So what are the overall cost, if it is required any hardware component or any licensed software. Okay, so overall cost like team members, any training purpose. Okay, so all the cost estimation is also analyzed. Even benefits of the software after development. So here in feasibility study you are also discussing what are the benefits that after software development is take place. Okay, so once you have done with software development, but what are the benefits of that particular software, that will also take place during the feasibility study analysis. And total overall maintenance cost. Okay, so once you have done with the software development, you need to maintain it regularly. Okay, so what is the overall maintenance cost for that particular software, that will also measure during the feasibility study analysis. Okay, so by using the feasibility study analysis, the things you are studied is resource availability, cost estimation for particular software development, then benefits of that software development. Okay, so after you have done with the software, what are the benefits and what is the maintenance cost. Okay, so this is all about the feasibility study. Even feasibility study will help you to suggest a alternative solution. Okay, if customer will give you some requirement, but in your point of view that particular solution will not work. So by applying a feasibility study in your particular project, you are able to recognize the alternative solution for that particular requirement. Okay, so feasibility study is very important for management also. Okay, so they can easily identify that whether that project is completed by given deadline or not, then what is the benefit for that particular user. Okay, and whether there is preferable alternatives. Okay, so feasibility study is the most important during the requirement analysis. So what are the types of feasibility study? So there are mainly three types. First is a technical feasibility, second is a operational feasibility, and third is a economical feasibility. Let's discuss each and every feasibility types in brief. So first is technical feasibility. Mainly, a technical feasibility is a capability of converting your ideas into your working system. Okay, so here technical point of view is came into the picture. So here technical feasibility analysis about alternative of hardware, software and design approaches. Even a current resources, that means such as hardware or any software and any technology. So what are the current resources for building that particular software? Then it also analyzes the technical skill and capability of team. Okay, so if I am going to develop my software in a Python language, okay, but if I don't have any particular team member having a knowledge about a Python, then I am not able to build that particular software. So here by technical feasibility, you are able to analyze the technical skill and capability of your team. Even it also check for whether the relevant technology is stable or not. Okay, so here you all know that nowadays C and C++ are rarely used programming language. Okay, so if customer required about the same programming language, you will suggest them that there is a older version and now we have a extended and more efficient programming language for developing a particular software. Okay, so it will also check for whether the relevant technology is stable or not, and it also consultation possible if problem arise. Okay, so by technical feasibility analysis, you are able to recognize that is there any consultant people is available or not during the problem. Okay, so these are the technical feasibility during your feasibility analysis. Okay, so here a technical team and a technical like resources, hardware or software all come into the picture. So this is all about a technical feasibility. Then next is your operational feasibility. So operational feasibility analysis tests the operational scope of the software to be developed. Okay, so what is the operational scope during your feasibility study or during your software project development? You are able to recognize by using a operational feasibility. It is also accesses extent to which software useful to solve business problem and user requirement. Okay, so how you are going to solve that particular requirement of that customer, that will also defined by this operational feasibility. So in your software, what are the operation and what you will do for that particular operation, that will mention in operational feasibility. And mainly operational feasibility focuses on whether the problem faced are of high priority. Okay, as we all know that during a software project development, we always have some issues. Okay, like any technical issues or with any human being issue. Okay, so if any of your friend or any team member left that particular job, okay, so there might be issues. Then technical skill, in particular your team member that don't have a sufficient technical skill, then also a problem should arise. Okay, so by using this operational feasibility, it is mainly focuses on whether a problem faced are of high priority problem, then are there acceptable solution. So is there any solution for that particular problem, and will user adapt to that particular new software? Okay, so these are the main key points that we discussed during the operational feasibility. Okay, and mainly operational feasibility depending on development team. Okay, so who are your human resources? Okay, what human resources you are using for particular software development, that will also mention. Okay, so mainly dependent on development team, so staff of your particular software development, and visualization of installed operating system. Okay, so here in operational feasibility, operational scope of the software is defined. Now next is a economic feasibility. So in economic feasibility, it will evaluate the cost of the software development against the ultimate income or benefits. Okay, so here you are analyzing the overall cost for your system. Okay, so here you are evaluating the cost of the particular software against the ultimate income or benefit. Okay, if you are done with your software development, your software is in market, and you will obviously earn something from your software. So what is the actual benefit from your software development, that will calculate. Okay, so overall cost of software development by a benefit or profit you will receive from the market. Okay, and it also determines whether the software is capable of generating financial gain. Okay, so here in economic feasibility, it is mainly focuses on producing long-term gains. Okay, so you all know that if I am developing or you are developing any software, it is not just for a smaller purpose. Okay, so you will developing any software for a longer use. Okay, so it mainly focuses on producing a long-term gains. It also calculates the cost of requirement elicitation and analysis, then cost of hardware, software, team, and training. So what is the total hardware costing, software costing, and you have to pay a salary to your employees. So overall team calculation, okay, and training. So what amount of cost you will invest for training that particular software development team. So overall costing is defined in a economic feasibility. Even economic feasibility involves cost of development team, estimated cost of hardware and software, and cost of feasibility study. So here there are three types of feasibility study you are using for analyzing any customer requirement. The first is technical feasibility, so technical hardware and software requirements, then economic feasibility, and then operational feasibility. So this is all about a feasibility study of requirement gathering and specification. Now let's move to the second and last topic of our unit 4, that is SRS, Software Requirement Specification. As we already discussed in our earlier lectures, that SRS is a kind of document. Okay, so it is a kind of user manual. We always have a user manual after buying any licensed software or buying any hardware product. Okay, so a SRS is a kind of software development document. Okay, so SRS is mainly useful for every user to know about the software process. Okay, and what your software is actually doing. So in this SRS we will learn about what is SRS, characteristics of SRS, what is the actual template for writing any SRS, and importance of SRS. So what is SRS? So software requirement specification is a document that completely describes what the proposed system should do, that without describing how software will do it. Okay, so here remember one thing, your SRS document is completely described about what is your system is doing. Okay, so what is your proposed system is do, that will mention in a SRS document. But here you have to remember one thing, that it always describe what the proposed system should do without describing how software will do. Okay, so what kind of questions are arise and answered in SRS document. SRS is also helping the clients to understand their own needs. Okay, if I am a customer and I will give you some requirements, but after some time I forgot my needs. Okay, so what I have tell you that I forgot. Okay, so by preparing a SRS, even I can able to recognize what I will ask you to develop. Okay, so SRS is also helping the clients to understand their own needs. Okay, and what SRS contains? So SRS document contains a representation of system behavior. So how your system will behave, that will mention. Then the complete information description. So what is the purpose of your system? What is the scope of that particular software? What are the feasibility study? Then what are the interfaces you are using? What are the hardware and software requirement? That all the things are mentioned in a SRS document. Even it will give you a detailed functional description, like what are the functional requirement, what are the non-functional requirement. Okay, then it is an indication of performance requirement and describe constraint and even appropriate validation criteria. Okay, and other information suitable to the requirement. So these all the things are contained in a particular SRS document. So now let's discuss about the characteristics for a good software. So what are the main characteristics for developing any good software? So a software should be accurate, complete, efficient and of high quality so that it does not affect the entire project plan. Okay, so as a project manager, you are continuously monitoring what your team member is doing, then it is easy to accurate, complete and efficient for high quality product you can develop. Okay, so it should be accurate, your software should be accurate, your software should be complete within the given time, it is efficient for use and it always have a good quality. Okay, so good quality of software so that does not affect the entire project planning. Okay, and SRS is said to be of high quality when the developer and the user easily understand the prepared document. So how easily a developer and user can understand that particular prepared document, that is mainly a high quality document. Okay, so if your SRS document is easily understandable by a user and by the developer, then your SRS document should said to be a high quality document. Okay, and what are the characteristics for particular good SRS? Characteristics are like correct, okay, then unambiguous, complete, ranked for importance and stability, modifiable, traceable, verifiable and consistent. Okay, so what do you mean by correct? So correct means SRS is correct when all user requirements are stated in the requirement document. Okay, so if I am a customer or a user, I will give you my all requirements for that particular software. So if you are mentioning all my requirements in your document and stated it properly, then your SRS is a correct SRS. Okay, here mark one thing, that there is no any specified tool or procedure to assure the correctness of SRS. Okay, so there is no any testing tool is available for checking that whether your SRS is correct or not. Okay, you just have to follow the customer requirement and just mention their all feasible requirement into that particular document. So your SRS should be a correct document. Then unambiguous. So unambiguous means there is no any conflict arise between two software process or any requirements. Okay, so SRS is unambiguous when every stated requirement has only one interpretation. Okay, so if I will give you any requirement, then there is a single meaning of particular requirement. Okay, so only a one interpretation per a requirement should be there. Then complete. So your SRS is complete when the requirements clearly define that what the software is required to do. Okay, so when you can say that your SRS is complete, so once you have done with all the requirements and your software is exactly what the customer needs, both the things are same, then SRS is a complete when the requirements clearly define what the software is required to do. Then next is ranked for importance or stability. Okay, so here all the requirements are not equally important. Okay, hence each requirement is identified to make difference among other requirements. For an example, if I am developing any software for sending and receiving email, okay, so here already Gmail and Yahoo and Rediff Mail, okay, multiple services are already there. Okay, so here requirements are like you have to register first, then you can able to log in, then you can easily compose any message, you can download a particular document from that particular mail. Okay, so here requirements are different. So here all the requirements are not important. Okay, so all the requirements are not equally important. Okay, registration and login is important, but not that equally important by sending any email. Okay, so here all requirements are not equally important. Hence, each requirement is identified to make difference among other requirements. And a stability implies the probability of changes in the requirement in future. Okay, so once I will develop any software based on the today's market needs, but after some time what market actually needs, that we don't know. So stability implies the probability of changes. Okay, so for an example, let's take an example of a WhatsApp application. When the first WhatsApp is arrived, okay, you all know that there is only a chat facility. Okay, so only you can chat with your friend or your colleague or any relative. But then after they will add a video quality feature. Okay, so you can able to give a video call or audio call anywhere in the world. Okay, then after a status facility. Okay, so based on the market needs, they are changing their WhatsApp application. So stability implies the probability of changes in the requirement in a future. Okay, so this is a good characteristics for developing any good SRS. Then modifiable. That means the requirement of the user can change. Hence, the requirements document should be created in such a manner that those changes can be modified easily. Okay, so as we all know that customer always needs something more. Okay, so continuously he or she will change their requirements. Okay, so modifiable means if you are easily change the customer requirement, then your document is proper. So the requirement of the user can change, and hence the requirement document should be created in such a manner that those changes can be modified easily. Okay, so you can update all the next thing easily. Okay, then traceable. So SRS is traceable when the source of each requirement are clear and facilitates the reference of each requirement in a future. Okay, so each requirement are easily trackable. Okay, that is the actual meaning of traceable. Okay, then next is a verifiable. All the requirements obviously are in a verified format. So SRS is verifiable when the specified requirement can be verified with a cost-effective process to check whether the final software meet those requirements. Okay, so whether all the feasibility are checked, then your SRS should be a verified SRS. Then consistency. So SRS is consistent when the subset of individual requirement defined do not conflict with each other. Okay, as we all know that each requirement have a sub requirement. Okay, so subsections are always there, but you have to check that is there any conflict between any requirements in your software. Okay, so by consistence, the SRS is consistent when the subset of that particular requirements defined do not conflict with each other requirement. Okay, so always there is a single meaning, means single interpretation for single requirement. So these are the characteristics of a good SRS. Now what is the problem without SRS? So if you are not designing or documenting a proper manual, then what problem should arise? So without developing the SRS document, the system would not be properly implemented according to the customer needs. Okay, so Just to take an example of, I am a customer, I will give you my requirement. Okay, you are a project manager. Okay, so you will always listen my requirement. Then based on the requirement, you will assign a particular task to your team member. Okay, but there is no any documentation is there. Okay, so based on your oral communication with your team member, the team member will build a particular software or any project. Okay, so if there is no any documentation in your software development, then implementation of that particular customer requirements are not take place. So without developing the SRS document, the system would not be properly implemented. Okay, then software developer would not know whether what they are developing is what exactly is required by the customer. Okay, so if you orally communicate with your team member, then the interpretation might be different. Okay, as a team leader, you are assigning some particular task to that team member, but team member interpret that particular requirements in such a another way. Okay, so here a conflict arises. So a team member will build particular requirement, but that particular requirement is not the actual requirement of the customer. So a developer will develop something else and customer actually needs something else. So if you are not properly design a SRS document, then the developing is what exactly is required by the customer is not done. Okay, then without SRS, it will very difficult for maintenance engineers to understand the functionality of the system. Okay, so here in practically whole project is divided into multiple team members. Okay, so designing team is different, testing team is different, coding team is different, then maintenance team is different. So once you have done with all the things like developing, construction means coding and testing, now you have to give a particular software to that particular user. Okay, now from your end your work is done, but if you don't deliver a particular SRS to the maintenance team, then maintenance engineer can't understand the actual functionality of particular software. So he or she is not able to recognize the problem arise in the software. Okay, and it will be very difficult for user document writers to write the user's manual properly without understanding the SRS. Okay, so for preparing any SRS, you have to roughly draft the user's need, and based on the user's need, you are able to recognize feasibility study. Okay, so you have to mention each and everything of your software product in a SRS document. So if you don't have any SRS document, then this kind of problem can be arise. Now, what is the template? So standard template for writing any SRS is, it is a kind of book. Okay, so having a multiple chapters. So starting with the introduction chapter, then overall description of that software product, then system feature, then external interface requirements, then other non-functional requirement and other requirement. Okay, so as you all know that if is there any reference book, then it always carry this kind of template in particular book. So first is introduction. Introduction means you are giving a simple introduction about your software product in that particular section. Okay, so in introduction you are defining a purpose. So what is the actual purpose of your software that you have mentioned in the particular purpose subsection. Okay, then project scope. So what is the scope of developing particular software that will mention in this section. Then definition, acronyms and abbreviation. So what abbreviation means? Short form you are using in your software development, like SRS, that is for software requirement specification. And what is the actual definition and actual meaning of particular things that you have to mention in that particular section. Then references. So what is the actual references you are using in your SRS? Okay, so it will give you a complete list of references that you have used in your SRS document. Then overview. So how your system is going to work. The basic overview of your software is mentioned in this section. So this is the first section, that is about the introductory. Okay, so here in introduction, you are defining a purpose, scope, definition, references and overview of your particular software. Then next is a overall description. So here your product perspective. Okay, so in there you will mention about the product perspective. So in what perspective you are developing that particular software. Okay, then product function. So what function and feature that particular software have, that will mention in the product function subsection. Then user classes and characteristics. So what are the characteristics of that particular software, that will mention in this section. Then operating environment. So in which environment you can able to access that particular software or application, that will mention. Then design and implementation constraint. So what is the design and implementation constraint, that will mention in this section. Then user documentation. Then assumption and dependency. So how user will understand that particular software and what are the dependency of that particular software from one page to another page. Okay, so that will mention in that particular unit. Okay, so second topic is about the overall description about your software product. Okay, then third is a system feature. So in system feature you are mentioning about a feature of your software. So feature 1, feature 2, feature 3 and many more. Okay, so you have a multiple feature in your software product that you will mention in that particular section. Okay, then next is an external interface requirement. So what is the hardware requirement, what are the software requirement, how UI will work and communication interface. These all things are mentioned in that particular section. Then next is a other non-functional requirement. So what is a non-functional requirement, like whether it is a secure software, whether it is a reliable, what are the availability, how it can be maintained and how it can be reusable. So these non-functional requirements are covered in this section. And other requirements like is there any other requirement like any human person or any external references you are using, that will mention in this section. Okay, and at last you all know that every book have an appendix, that means glossary, then analysis, then issue list. Okay, so appendix A, B and C and all the references are given. So this is the basic and standard template for writing any SRS document. So what is the importance of SRS? So as we already discussed, problem faced when we don't have a proper SRS document. So importance of SRS is system can't be implemented as per customer need. Okay, customer will always demand something else. Okay, so here customer requirement is always there, but by analyzing a feasibility of the requirement, you are able to recognize what is justifiable and what is to be developed. Okay, so system can't be implemented as per the customer need. You have to analyze a market need also for developing any software. Then from developer's point of view, is developed product is as per the customer requirement. Okay, so if you are writing any SRS, then it is important for developer also. Okay, so developer can easily analyze that whether he or she have developed that particular software is lead to the customer needs or not. Okay, customer will demand for video calling and a developer team developed a particular audio call facility, then the conflict between the two requirement. Okay, so from developer side, SRS document is also important for recognizing actual customer needs. Then maintenance engineer. So for maintenance engineer, it is also important. Okay, so for functionality of any software, maintenance engineer need to know about the feature and function of the particular software by using this SRS document. So maintenance engineer can't maintain and understand software if there is no any SRS document. Then documentation. So user manual can't be created properly. So if there is no any SRS, then user manual can't be created properly. Okay, so for developing any user manual, you need to create a SRS document. So this is all about the system requirement specification, that means SRS document. So here we have completed unit 4 of our syllabus. Thank you.